Hey, folks. The October meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners is called to order. Reading of the minutes of the previous session.
Accept the minutes of last month's meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carried. We still auditing the bills and accounts?
Yes.
Okay. So let's jump to the third thing on the agenda. I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss collective bargaining negotiations under the Taylor Law. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Executive session.
Second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. Those in favor of coming out of executive?
Aye.
Okay, we're out of executive session from discussing collective negotiations. I also. Okay, so,
Thank you.
first, business is to agree for the retainer with Shaw, Earlson, May, and Lambert. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Is there any further discussion? Okay, those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
David.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Okay. We done with bills and accounts? Jump back there. A motion to,
Make a motion to accept bills and accounts. Second.
okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Cooper Lake improvements.
So, I mean, it's basically the same as it was last month. We're still waiting for the screen chamber, but the materials for the stairs and the gratings will be delivered on Friday. And then they will be letting us know when it'll be installed. I anticipate it'll be quickly, so anticipate by the next meeting that the screen chamber is complete.
Okay. We can have a second groundbreaking or
Same thing. I'm now a pro. So.
okay.
You gotta get the sword though, right?
Yeah,
Saber, I'm sorry, saber.
okay, 2025 budget.
Um,
That's what we were discussing.
Yeah, so I mean, we're working on the draft numbers now. I don't have the draft prepared for this meeting. I want to put on here so we can start thinking about when we want to have that the budget workshop that we do every year.
Okay,
That's usually in November at some point. The biggest thing right now is just trying to work out the Cooper Lake improvements debt service payments for next year. So we're working with our financial advisor and EFC. There's been emails going back and forth for the last week, just trying to iron down what those numbers are going to look like next year.
and you work that out with who, EFC?
EFC, the financial advisor, bond counsel, of what needs to be paid, what can be paid, when the closing. So the closing is targeted for February for the long-term bonds.
You want to set up a date for a workshop now? Is that what you're looking for?
That's up to the board.
In November, we're looking at?
We don't have to wait till November. We go.
You can do it earlier if you want.
The November meeting's on the 13th.
Just know that I won't have any health insurance rates until
Till even,
mid-December.
right, so I mean,
So
it becomes a
that'll
moot
be
point
That'll be
anyway.
the best guess, I mean, for those, but that's how it's been for the last 3 or 4 years anyway. The state doesn't rush those rates out. Maybe
Right.
this year will be different, but
I mean, are Wednesdays normally good for everyone? Since we're-
Well, 5 o'clock, I guess, sure, yeah. If it's again 5 o'clock, I always have something, I'm sorry, I'm always just rushing here. But yeah, I guess if, as long as it's 5 o'clock, or if it's probably a day off though, would still be a holiday here also. So, it's the only day I would come earlier.
Yeah, you have no other date, holidays or days off, right, Joanne?
That's everybody's.
Yeah.
So, no, not before. I don't even think, I will be in school on election day, the kids will be off, but, you know, the teachers will still be there. It's always funny.
So we want to do it before the next meeting, so we want to do Wednesdays, you got the 30th, you have 6.
With the 30th, give you enough time to get it done.
Yeah, that'll be 11.
I would hope I have the Cooper piece done by the Thursday. That was the estimates. I'm not gonna file numbers before the end of the year anyway, just because it depends on other
But
factors.
Cooper gives you 3 weeks, I mean, the 30th
The
gives you
30th will give me time
3
to get
weeks
a
anyway.
decent draft together that I could send out to everybody. And we can
Okay.
talk about it
What
then.
day are we looking
Wednesday, the 30th, October 30th. Is
at? Yeah, that'd be fine.
that okay for
Works
everyone?
me.
Same time, 5 o'clock.
Yeah. Are you gonna have something for us prior to that meeting?
Hopefully, that's my plan.
Okay.
Send something out.
All right, so that we can have time to
Yeah.
look at it and have discussions at that meeting.
Just with the understanding that it will be a moving target for a little bit.
Lead service line inventory.
Um, So that will be going out to the state health department next week. It is due on the 16th. We're working to finalize everything now. And then within 30 days from the 16th, we will be sending out notifications to anybody that we have with a lead service. And also anybody we have with an unknown service. So there will be a postage cost to that. We're looking at different options. Getting it done by somebody else, because stuffing 4,000 envelopes is not gonna be easy.
There's that many.
So the biggest issue we're going to have is we have a number of lead. We have roughly 2,600 that we have in our records as lead. The problem with the inventory is if I got into every single house in Kingston and every house had copper coming through the wall, that's not enough to say it's a copper service. We have a card in that room that says the tap was done in 1895,
Mhm.
and we have nothing stating that it was ever renewed and copper was put in. It's still a lead service. You cannot assume it's copper. They make it very clear during all this leading up to this inventory that you cannot assume based on what you see in the house.
So we
that it's
have to
copper
go
in the
dig
street.
up the curb box and check it to make sure.
That's really the only way. And then you get
Wow.
into some of these other regulations that are coming out is they want to know anything longer than 3 feet goosenecks of lead, that's a lead surface. How do you
Coke to that.
figure that out?
Mm.
It's,
I would check the curb box without excavating.
yeah, that's debate. I mean, there is some technology that they have. Everybody's doing this differently. Some people have hired people to do analytical models. How that's.
Yeah, but
A1
you would have to
accurate.
improve it, right? And you have to
It's-
approve it and
Yeah, I mean, we have pretty good records, but again, I mean, if every house in Kingston had copper in the basement, it doesn't help us with the unknowns. So the letters of unknowns is gonna have to be done until we can prove
And who's,
that from the main.
who's on the hook for, who pays for this? The
I mean, right
homeowner
now-
or the water department?
Right now, we're responsible for the inventory. The Biden administration just put out the lead service, what do they call it, lead and copper rule improvements. It was yesterday, I believe, yesterday morning, yesterday afternoon.
Oh, that's
Those were,
executive action?
it's been in the works for a while.
Rulemaking, they went through the whole rulemaking process. Yeah.
So that came out, yes, that was finalized yesterday. I have not fully delved into that, but basically that states that there's 10 years to get all the lead out.
You're
From
starting.
2027.
Starting in 2027, and
Yes.
it's 10 years from now. It'll be 13 years from this day.
Yeah.
In essence.
And
Who's close?
that's where it gets, there's areas in there.
My reading was that basically it is our cost, the water department's cost, but that the federal government will be providing grant funds. They've allocated a certain number of billion.
They've been stating for a while that these are all fully funded, but the inventories haven't come out yet, so they really don't know how many of these there are, but they're fully funded, so I mean, I don't know how you have one without the other. And then it's also, it's not like it's fully grant funded either, it's loan funded. So it's, if it ends up being on the part that it'll make Cooper look like a small project.
Yeah, right.
Will this, will the municipality be on the hook for businesses as well, or just one?
I mean,
Is it-
it just came out yesterday, I have not
Yeah.
delved into it fully,
Are you mailing to businesses? as
there's a
well,
lot
or
of
just
water
homeowners?
departments out there trying to figure out the
Yeah.
ones that, I mean, for the service, for the notification, for the inventory. If we have an unknown or a lead for that property, they'll be getting one of the other, one letter or the other.
For
stating-
businesses.
Stating you have lead or you have, an unknown service.
Correct.
You know what it is, notify us here, send pictures, do this, call us, schedule an appointment.
Process.
We can try to whittle that down, because these notifications have to go out annually.
3 years.
So, until we can whittle those numbers down, it'll be every year.
More strong than it was.
So you have 2,600 that you believe are lead. That you know,
As of right now, that's what our records are stating.
and then there's
And some of them are, some are records, some are we've been in there,
and then there's another 1,400.
16 to 1,800. We're still, there's a couple more we have to enter. We haven't gotten into the spreadsheet yet, so. A lot of the ones that have to be entered are still, most of those are probably gonna be unknowns, so I'm thinking it's gonna be closer to the 2,000 by the time we're done for unknowns.
That's not terrible.
No,
Right.
considering we can't see into the street.
Half our number of service connections, right? Don't we have like 8,000 service connections?
Yeah. But the lead is, I mean, my hope is a lot of the unknowns will come back to us with my service was replaced here, my service was replaced here, and that'll start whittling that down.
I mean, there's no
that's-
technology now that you could put on,
There's stuff coming out, I mean,
that would say where lead starts and it doesn't get a signal or something.
there's different things that are out there.
Mm.
And a lot of, I mean, some people for the inventory, they're just using models, like, we look at X number and this is what was lead, this is how we're determining how many lead services there are. Everybody's taking a different approach. Larger cities have just they've already started replacing. Rochester has just delved into
Yeah, certain
replacing
cities are
every,
like
they're
total-
huge. So everybody's taking a different approach, and I think part of the problem is the health department is also trying to figure this out. So the state health department is trying to figure it out at the same time they're trying to enforce it. So like I just got the template for the actual inventory, the Excel template, a month and a half ago. I got the template for the letters 2 weeks ago, maybe. So there's a lot.
And the health department provided that stuff to you?
Yes.
That came from the health.
Yeah. So the state health department developed these templates that they've been working on. But I go to Saratoga every year, and this has been a big thing
Mhm.
since I've been going up there. So it's one of the biggest topics, and it's, we're understaffed, we're working on it, we're gonna get something to you. And that's kind of been, and now we're here, we're a week away, so. We're gonna have our inventory in, we're ready.
Well, we'll probably be 25% will have it in.
Yeah,
Which is a
So even-
lot of
So
water
even
systems
clients
that
must-
don't.
Must stay ahead of like,
hopefully.
coming down.
Yeah, there's grant money that's available to folks. There was grant money for folks that needed help to do the inventory. We had such good records that we didn't really need the grant money.
We're on the IUP, we just didn't get it.
Yeah, but then there's like the next phase, hopefully with people who then have these inventories, the state will then funnel supposedly all this federal money into communities like they did in Rochester and other places to be able to actually help us do. So we did like a lead line replacement program 5 years ago now, or we,
5 or 6 was when I first started.
yeah, and we did like 25 houses,
Like in Henry Street or something.
and we did like with $5,000.
It's still so new, I don't. recall.
Yeah,
I
it
wasn't
was like,
involved in that at
it's
all.
not that, it's like 15,000 per house.
Yes,
That
that was
back then.
yeah, it's
It's
probably
probably-
closer to 20 now, if,
So just to
if
give
not
you a
more.
sense, like if we have to do 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, again, I was new then, but I kind of recall that a lot of the ones that were dug up ended up not being lead, even though the records we supplied the grant team over there stated that the tap was from 1890 something, they actually were excavated. I think there were a certain percentage of those that
Yeah,
not
we did a
in
lot.
fact lead, which is good,
Yeah.
but you still have to pay for the excavation costs.
Yeah, and I will say that every time we do a public infrastructure project, like we're replacing all of the sewer on Prospect Street, and a couple of large sections of Prospect Street, and every time we come across a lead service line, we have to replace it, you know, as a part of our project. So like when we did Henry Street and Franklin Street, we had to replace lead service lines just as a part of our road work that we did, but essentially when we're doing sewers. So that's another way that we're kind of also helping in this cause. Is that every time
And
we-
on the reverse, you documented the other ones that are not lead then? I mean,
One I had was Prospect and the whole main was redone, so everything is copper.
Wasn't there a certain period of time when lead was prevalent and used, and I thought it was
Yes.
a period of time that just like roads fell apart, right? The history say, and the rest of the city was probably not.
I mean,
Don't we have
the problem, I think the problem with the city is a lot of the stuff is from the 1800s.
Yeah.
We see taps all the time from the 1890s, it's
Did they use
incredible.
lead back then?
I mean, just,
Chicago actually insisted on having lead before it was banned by the government. Chicago's in the worst straits right now. They have the most lead services in the entire country because they insisted on lead before it was banned.
You
in-
get a
in
higher
1988.
reading on a lead service than regular.
higher reading.
Yeah, of lead bleeding off the lines, because every line I've ever seen is so coated, there's really no lead in contact with water anymore.
I mean, we just did our, triangle every 3 years, we were lead, we're on reduced monitoring for lead sampling, and we just did that. And, I mean, we have, even the ones that we know are lead, the hits are minuscule. on it.
Yeah, it's because the pH has to be low enough. It has to be an acidic pH to be able to dissolve the lead minerals. That's the whole thing with Flint, Michigan.
Yeah,
is the
they
pH.
screwed up their water
They screwed
system if
up
they
the
didn't
pH
screw up
of
their water system.
Yeah, when we did that whole presentation many years ago. Yeah, that's what came out. I go over this with my students in school. You know,
So if they didn't mess with their pH of their water, we.
Well, they changed their source of water.
yes, they changed their source of water and then they were cutting costs. And they didn't adjust their pH was acidic. And I believe the acidity was dissolving the lead compounds that had in there. And if your acidity is high enough, like ours, you know, we're in a basic pH range, there's no effect on it. But it's just, you know, it's for safety. And I guess all the water filters that you can buy, most of these water filters will remove the lead. So as long as people, you know, so many people who are, you know, really health conscious have water filters, but, you know, it's just what it is, you know?
You have to
It's
replace
just-
the meters also.
So I mean, the meters are brass with.
All brass now,
Or,
no
or
lead
the
in it?
plastics, and they're lead free black.
Oh,
brass. I
okay.
mean,
Yeah, for a long
They've
time.
all been replaced.
for the most, I don't know if they've all been replaced.
But most, I mean, by and
At
large.
this point, I'm assuming the majority of the meters are brass, lead free, or plastic.
But that only came out a couple of years ago, right? Mandatory replacing.
So we don't even,
Brass
we don't
fixtures,
even
yeah.
use brass unless they're larger. It's
Yeah.
all
Glass.
plastic.
We gotta do that in school for us, came out of our schools.
Well, and one of the things that it also, the legislation, I think also, it did reduce the or the testing requirements have changed now, right? So it went from 15 down to 10.
They lowered the action level to 10, which and they changed the testing method, so. With the changes to that, I mean, their anticipation is the results are going to be higher, so there's a chance that we will exceed those levels. So now currently you take 1 liter of water after sitting for a certain period of time. They're changing that on the next sampling round, or I don't know officially when that's officially happening, but it'll be 5 liters testing after a period of time, and they will test the first and the 5th liter, and whatever is higher is the one they're going to use.
5 individual.
So that'll take 5 consecutive samples that need to be taken by the homeowner without dropping any water. And then we would collect them and we get them tested, 1 and 5. They'll be labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 and 5 are tested. Whatever is higher is the lead result.
And you could have
So you have a lead
lead
faucet in your
contaminated
kitchen,
faucets.
it's gonna be, sky high.
Fixtures, plumbing inside the house, it could be brass pipe, I mean, there's a lot of
Yes.
ways to get lead in your house other than just
Yes.
main water service there.
There's gonna be a lot happening over the next couple of years with that.
I think it'll just keep expanding.
I just wanted to
Yeah,
keep it,
I mean,
keep it up.
most of all that lead prevention has,
By, I think it's 30 days from next Wednesday, so,
mid-November.
yeah, somewhere around there, 15th, 16th, they're out. Assuming the post office delivers.
And are the letters gonna say what people need to do, or they
It
just need
talks
to
about the
wait?
health, talks about the health effects of lead,
Okay.
what to do to lessen, let the water run, don't use hot water for cooking, formula, stuff like that. And then for the unknowns, it'll talk about how to contact us or send us pictures here,
Okay.
stuff like that.
Okay.
I haven't finalized those templates yet. I just kind of got them, whittle them down and customize them for Kingston.
Anything else? Any other questions? iPark.
I think everybody's been a part of these conversations, but basically we had turned over a section of that line to the town of Ulster, from the sewer plant into the iPark facility, for their responsibility to maintain. And that has been rolled into their usage of their 700,000 a day. At this point, there still has not been any kind of connection made to Voices Lane and the town of Ulster Water District. Unfortunately, that agreement doesn't have any kind of time frame on it when we did it. So we've seen the usage out there drop. And I would like to push the town to replace the meter. This is going to continue. So the meter that's currently there is a 10-inch meter that was meant for IBM. And those meters do not pick up low flows. So if they're using what they say they are using, toilets, sinks, it's not going to pick up all the water that's going through. I've talked to town superintendent. It could be changed out. There's no reason for a 10-inch meter to be in there. So I would like to have the town have that taken care of. Whether it's at their expense or iParks, I guess it's between the town and them, but that would be the request that I would like to make to them.
You don't need authority.
I just wanted to kind of just update the board on where we were at, so I wouldn't think I need any kind of authority to
You
make
have the
that call.
authority, you don't need for it. You just, they have to buy the meter though, right?
I don't care who buys them, as long as we're not buying the meter. But that meter's been in there for, when it was IBM put in. So I don't know exactly how long the meter's been in there, but it could very well.
You think that's the original meter from then?
It might be. I don't have that date, I wasn't prepared for that date, but it's been in there for a while, and it's a
I
10
bet
inch.
there's a lot of lead in that meter, they better take that out.
So, I mean, even if it was
I
new.
think that was one of the meters that was tested though, and we had that testing firm. Remember when we had a firm come in and wanted to sell us new meters and they did a study?
They took it out and tested it?
No. I think there was a way they could,
So ones, I mean, I wasn't here, that was before I got here, but I thought they took them out and took them to a, facility and had them all tested
I'm
there.
not sure, I thought that was one of the ones, because that.
Need a crane for
There
that.
were some of the
It's a
bigger use, they
And I have
tested
a- I have a
all the
list
bigger
of-
uses.
We have that, we have the list of all the meters they touch.
Yeah, you probably have the report someplace. I probably have the reports.
I mean, even if it was working, I think the biggest problem is that meter could work, it's just the flows are so low, it's not meant for that.
Yeah.
They're not using, there's no,
Small.
industry out there, it's, offices right now, and, even when they put out, employment offices or whatever BOCES or the county is doing,
Yeah.
it's still not gonna have the demand, even resident. It changes the hours they're using water, but it's not gonna, that meter's not gonna pick up all the water. So,
Sure.
that's all, I don't think I
Okay.
need the board, Brandon, it's
No.
enough.
Okay.
I have one more. before we
Got
go.
one more? Okay.
We had talked about, I forgot to put on the agenda, but we had talked about CDM, putting together estimates to do an engineering report, so we could get onto the IUP for some of these major projects, so we could potentially have grant funding and, DWFRF funding. And to get any of that kind of funding, you need to be on the internal use, project listing. And to get onto that listing, you need a stamped engineering plan. So these are the numbers that CDM, Ryan, Derek, and I met with them, we had a call with them. And these are some of the projects we identified. So we have the lagoons that we talked about, the tanks and the distribution system, the Beale Street water main, and how best to abandon that, where we had that major break.
That was a big leak.
Yes,
So you guys found it?
the 700,000 a day that we found down there, we couldn't actually get to the main. And then we also have pressure reducing valves throughout the city, and this would also kind of evaluate them using the hydraulic model and kind of look into is there a way to either replace them, what do they need to do to reduce pressures in the downtown area? Is there something we can do better? We have them now, but what they're actually doing is kind of, are they doing what they need to do? And I got this after the packet had gone out, unfortunately.
So we're gonna do this, so
So this would allow us to get that report, to get onto that listing, so we need to be on that listing by May of next year.
this will give us all the engineering, so when the grants are available, we have everything.
So we get on there in May, and then it would allow us to apply for DWSRF funding, as well as WIA grants and any other grants that UFC may be using for water infrastructure.
So their charge is $80,000
For the reports and the
For the re-
evaluations.
for the 5.
Approximately, right?
Well, they have,
Well, but it also says if they go over, they'll let you know. Or go under.
And what was the highest priority, the lagoons were the highest priority of this list, or?
well, water storage tanks probably.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't really an order of priority. I mean, we do need to do something with them at some point in the next year and a half probably, but
Unless we get like a really good winter.
if it's really cold, well, that's a definition of good. A really cold winter might not be great for us either, but it would help the lagoon, but it might not help us down here. So, but the tanks, I mean, we should look at the tanks. We had them inspected, so we have those. They've been passed on to CDM.
Those are not, that course is not specs, right, to do the,
It's just a report,
just
yes.
the report.
Yeah,
It's
we're
not
not, we're not
Yeah.
gonna get designs.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a engineering report that says that this is how much it would cost, this is the general alternatives that we would take, they're kind of like pre-shovel ready.
It's like a report on the tank on Golden Hill, it's falling
Yes.
apart. Is that-
It's a stupid.
It's to get that,
Like,
basically,
it's a
you're paying for the
bureaucratic
stamp,
requirement.
you're paying for the engineering stamp to say that we've had this looked at, here's our probable cost, here's why we think we need this much money. and here's why we want it.
And then at whatever point in time, then we retain them to actually design plans at an additional cost.
Do you have a line that's coming out of 80 grand?
Well, that was my next question.
Okay.
Well, one is, when do we need to approve this? And is that coming out of this year's budget or next year's budget?
I mean, this would not be done this year, based on where the timeline is.
Says the engineering report workshop is scheduled the week of April 7th.
So I mean, there would be pieces like, you know, like
25.
subdivisions, that's I think 14 weeks. 9 weeks, 20 weeks, 20 weeks. So there may be some small bills here and there between now and the end of the year for some time. CDM typically bills monthly for the work that we've had them do in the past. So it won't be a one invoice for 80, it would be piecemeal between now and May 30th. I mean, in terms of, we have.
January 8th would be 20 weeks before. So that's like the absolute last day.
There's still time to, everybody can review this. This isn't like a drop dead tonight kind of deal.
Okay,
But it could always come out of capital if we had to take it out of the reserve. What we have in our engineering plan this year.
well, the deadline is May 30th of next year.
That's to get it into.
For the IUP, right?
Yes.
You're gonna need time ahead of, before that, to submit the stuff for the IUP. Or can you
Oh, I can
work on the IUP and as soon as
the actual process to submit to EFC is like one form.
okay,
And here's the report from the engineer. I mean, at this point, for this year, we still have. It's this 7,000 left in our engineering line for this year.
well, when do they need to start in order to meet all those other timeframes? Are you saying that we can make this decision at next month's meeting?
Yeah, because I think the longest lead time was 20, so months. So really, I mean, if we did this in November, we'd still have more than 20 weeks.
Okay,
So saying they can get 3 and 4 done within 20 weeks.
okay,
So
why don't
that
we
puts us
take it,
into next year.
take it
So we
home,
can-
review it, and
Yeah.
we'll discuss it at next month's meeting. Yeah. Do you have anything else?
And then I have a small update on the ash from last meeting about Kingston Terrace in the main.
Okay.
So I spoke with Dennis from Veneer and Lario.
Mm-hmm.
The sewer was installed in 1983. They did the engineering for it.
The sewer was installed.
So there is a sewer. It was done in 1983. So his very quick calculations would put it at about $100,000 to put a main in the street.
For 6 houses.
Yes. I mean, I haven't gotten any other numbers, but my first thought when I heard that number was if there was a main in the street today and we had to put 6 services in, 6 services times $20,000. It'd be more expensive to put 6 services in than an 8-inch water main. So I mean, I don't know. So we have to keep looking. But then the other thing Ryan and I did today was we spent 10 minutes just thinking about the city, and we came up with at least 10 other streets that have no main, that people have very long services, that they have a similar situation where it could be an inconvenience to them to repair it and handle that responsibility of fixing their leak to maintain their water.
You said 6 other streets?
At least 10. That was just a quick,
Mhm.
what can we think of off the cuff of who has a long service and why? So there are other streets in the city as well, including some right in that area where we've had issues before. Cameron, Kingston Terrace, Clifton Terrace, South Wall, Hooker, Granite, Noon, Albert, Condi, Alio Post. And that's just a few. They all have water. It's just, it's a little bit harder for them in terms of, I don't want to say harder, they have a lengthier service.
Mhm.
So again, when he was here speaking, there's one where the main's right in front of their house, but it's all rock, and I've seen some of those on the avenue. It's extremely expensive for them to get a new service as well. So it's not necessarily the distance, that's the, I think in the end, his cost was significantly less than a lot of people have had to do repairs.
So you have to hammer blast.
Or run a whole new service, where his was an easy repair in one hole. He had to do all because he didn't have a shut off, but
We still
and they
don't,
didn't put a shut off in, so, but. So that's just the quick.
Does that include service connection to the house? Or just the main?
that's the main.
We put them in.
Okay, and then you think we would be obligated to pay for the,
I would think if we were to decide to put a main in that street, yeah.
Generally, like when we do a sewer project and we put in a new sewer line, we also connect all of the houses.
But that's just for Kingston Terrace. Then once you set that, you have to look at all the other ones too.
oh, yeah,
So
I don't know.
but currently they all have water. They have access to the water, they have the right to the water.
I'm not a leaking, no, no.
Yeah, I mean, we've done leak detection for the last couple of years, and I think at this point, every leak that we've identified has been repaired. That's where we're at with that. We requested last meeting.
Thanks for coming.
Is there anything new on the transmission main there? Going,
Yes, yeah. You wanna finish just what we have?
Oh, okay.
We get into executive
Sure.
session to discuss that one.
okay.
I would assume that's executive session, right, Bill?
Okay. So what else? We have superintendent's report,
Yes.
superintendent's report. Any questions? See, September was a drawing month. Huh? Yeah, I know. Hearing any questions, I entertain a motion to accept the superintendent's report.
Motion.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So a motion to go into executive session, discuss a legal matter.
Make a motion.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to come out of it. Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Back in, out of executive session.
You done?
I guess motion to adjourn, right?
Make the motion.
Way to go. Second,
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We'll see.